Chapter 112, Tournament Finals Part 7. Tournament Finals Part 7. The 12th match, Hakuro versus Sean. It's the last match of the third day. At the center of the Coliseum, Hakuro stands opposite to Sean. Inside the tense atmosphere is Milim, who acts like usual, undisturbed. Begin, Milim, she shouted. Having become more experienced, she gives the announcement fluently. By the way, Sokka doesn't take the referee role. She just does the victory proclamation because there is the risk that Sokka will interrupt the more serious sword fights. She only gives Live reports. Milim imitating her doesn't do anything that would disturb the match. She is just happy that she could do something. My worry of her behaving wildly hasn't come true. I'm really thankful it hasn't. Let's pay more attention to the match. The two brandish their swords against each other with a quiet atmosphere. It is not a relentless sword clash like the fight between Benimaru and Zoe. They just straightforwardly test each other's offense and defense. It's like a calm flowing river. However, a sudden downpour made the river surge. Hakuro yelled out with fighting spirit as he slashed in Sean's direction. But Sean isn't impatient with a wonderful example of using just enough power to not injure the opponent. She wards off Hakuro's slash. Hakuro is still in contrast to Sean, who is always in motion. They give such an impression, however, this battle completely turned that image around. Just like in the yesterday's battle, Sean obviously had grown. Her fighting method was not the one where she just attacks with all of her strength like she had done until recently, but she has changed into a skilled battling method that stresses the importance of rational tactics. That is combining strength with technique. This means that her power had increased by one level. If going by skill level alone, it didn't match Hakuro yet, but with both her higher physical strength and skill level supplemented by her instinct, she could fight on par with Hakuro. No, they're not equal. Sean, who has a flowing sword art, incorporated her irrational Herculean strength. Her technique is still immature if compared to Hakuro's. In reality, the one who is seriously fighting and was pushed out in this battle was Hakuro. It seems that Hakuro's swordsmanship was unable to ward off Sean's sword attack. You have grown, Sean. Never did I expect that with your sword skill, you could get this far. Fufu. I won't act violently forever, you know. My wish is to teach that high place for sure. My wish is to reach that high place for sure. With my previous self, I could never be useful for Rimuru-sama. The swords intersect and repel each other. Once more they face each other by taking a distance. It's more than I thought. They began to display the aspect of an advanced swordsman's match. Hakuro nods in satisfaction after seeing Sean's growth. Zoe was the first disciple he took under his wing. He knows his own ability and duties while abstaining himself from overconfidence. An ideal disciple. Compared to Zoe, Benimaru and Sean were very different. No matter how he teaches, they are more about combat rather than theory, and thus more about strength rather than skill. That was the personality that they carried into their battles. However, Benimaru, as the young warrior of the ogres, was a boy who had a strong sense of responsibility from the beginning. Therefore, it was good that he was aware that self-conceit could make the people he holds dear hurt. Like that, Benimaru mastered his awareness and responsibility as a general. He has grown more remarkably than what Hakuro had previously expected. For Hakuro too, it was truly a joyous thing, but more than anything for the problem child Sean to become more mature. Hakuro, although very surprised, was also delighted. For a period of time, Sean's outrage after being resurrected from the maws of death was an intolerable thing. Is her mind unstable? Has her heart gone dark? It was as if her heart had been completely dyed by the violent hatred towards people, except her friends. He had also inspected the situation of Yomegairi, special training, but they did not give out the feeling of special training but of venting their anger. Had Sean's mind gone mad because she died? So he worried. If by some chance Sean turned into someone who causes great harm, he had the resolution to personally deal with her using his sword. However, Sean showed growth. Sean changed again after being admonished by Rimuru-sama following the fight with the Holy Knights. In the end, Sean may just be afraid of being killed. It wasn't because death is scary, but because she was afraid she would disappear without being any use. It seemed that finding herself not useful and being forgotten by Rimuru-sama is what she is afraid of more than anything else, by Hakuro's analysis. For that reason, even for a little, she tries to stand out more than others. The cause was also because she was obsessed with foolish things like ranking order. She envied the others. She was afraid that if she was not hugging Rimuru-sama's interest and affection for herself, she would end up forgotten and left behind. The jealousy in her heart is the cause of her recklessness. However, Rimuru-sama will never forget about us. Once she realized that, the jealousy in her heart will surely disappear. In the end, the sense of being securely watched over by a parent was something that protected Sean's mind. Now, there is no doubt that Sean's swordsmanship, such a thing, told more than any words. If she keeps growing at the same rate as now, the day when her ability surpasses Hakuro doesn't seem far. If that's true, then I can give my undivided attention to the troublesome youths, such as Gobta and Gabil. So he thinks, while a delightful smile begins to shape. Now, if you're able to stop this sword, I will confer to you the full mastery of my arts. He told Sean, and the training sword once more enters its sheath, the battle will be decided by the next strike. To see Sean's growth was a godsend. After this, it is only to enjoy this battle. Hakoro intended to use Bato Jutsu. Sean also noticed it. However, Sean doesn't become unnerved. Of course, she won't use Battle Jutsu since her Odachi won't get additional speed when it was drawn. It's not like she wasn't able to do it, but now is not the right time to use it. For Sean and the others, Hakoru was the closest person to a parent for them. He was the only person who had raised them since they were young. That's why one of Sean's objectives was to be acknowledged by him. And then after surpassing him, she'll grow. That's what Sean thought. Until recently, the heavy insecurity that had occupied her heart had been completely vanished. She wasn't afraid of death, but what she feared more than death was to be forgotten. However, it's all right now. Conviction that Morimuro-sama will never forget about her had swept away Sean's insecurity. At the same time, as the insecurity was swept away, she realized that it was meaningless to envy others. So instead of envy, she had surpassed it. Sean had reached the part where she noticed the meaning of surpassing herself, that she's not another person. In that case, she will always keep on growing. At the end of that progress, thanks to their longer lifespan, she could arrive at a perspective that couldn't be attained by short-lived people. When thinking about this, Sean didn't feel any need to be impatient anymore. Sean's growth was accelerated when her insecurity and doubt disappeared. However, it could be called ironic. That is something that even Sean wasn't unable to notice. The envy sprout that budded inside Sean's heart once again showed some change. At the same time as her insecurity and doubt disappeared, the envious feeling towards others was also dispelled. The outcome of this was that the budding sprout in a surge turned back into a seed and fell asleep in her innermost heart, and thus the budding of Sean's feelings of envy ceased. The seed did not vanish when it assimilated with the soul. It blended together with the wavelength of her soul and engraved the beat. Did the envy not bud because her anxiety and doubt disappeared, or did her anxiety and doubt disappear because she no longer goes mad with jealousy? It was uncertain. Anyway, Sean changed and arrived at the present state. Next, what Hakoro had released was without doubt a sword saint's sword draw arts. If someone was able to stop the attack, then there was a good chance of winning. It was the weak point of sword draw. The winner and loser would be decided by this one strike. Sean devoted her entire body and soul and made a posture to prepare against Hakuro's attack. Dim, stream, slash. Hakuro's figure became indistinct, thin like air, despite the fact that Sean's perception was not inferior in speed. It was obstructed for a moment, and before she realized it, he had already appeared before her eyes like an optical illusion. The shining blade was flowing as if it would cut through the neck. Hakuro's victory seems to be confirmed. Not yet. War Goddess release. Sean transforms by utilizing the unique skill War Goddess transformation. When the doubt inside Sean disappeared, the skill demonification changed into War Goddess transformation. It's not a skill where someone loses their awareness and rage like a berserker. It's an ability that purely raised physical power. Just like Benimaru's demon flame transformation, it was an ability where they're able to use the properties of their soul body. Sean is in a state where her body strength was transferred into her soul body without any change. However, it consumes an extreme amount of energy, so it can't be used for a long time. This moment is when the decision concluding this offense and defense is made. With her current self, she can't match Hakuro. That's why she used of her ability. Under the effect of unique skill, War Goddess transformation, a fierce and powerful Toki overflows from Sean's entire body. All her senses are sharpened at the same time, and the power overflowing from Sean can be felt. The current Sean is able to clearly see Hakuro's dim current slash that could even confuse one's speed perception. Invasion is unnecessary. She will not receive damage from that katana. Sean understood that in an instant. However, Sean chose to respond to it with her greatest technique without hesitation. Chaotic, the apocalypse and genesis of faith, life, and death of the universe. Putting her whole with it Putting her whole will in it, it could even alter the outcome. She twists her body while sending her Odachi from below and intercept Hakuro's blade. Hakuro's blade that was aimed to slash at Sean's neck was intercepted by Sean's Odachi. Despite that, there wasn't even a chance for it to make it in time. Sean's accelerating sword speed broke common sense and overwrote the result. Light flickers and a broken edge flew in the air. Sean's Odachi beat and cut Hakuro's tiny katana. Sean quickly retracted her blade and swung down with her overhead raised Odachi. A clear voice with high-pitched tone could be heard as Sean's Odachi was stopped by the magic sword Tenma in Milim's hand. Stop. Any more than this is prohibited. This much shall be Sean's victory. Milim proclaimed Sean's victory with an expression as if nothing had happened. Shout of joy wrapped the Colosseum. Milim interrupted the match and stopping Sean's sword. Few people noticed the real situation, but Hakuro and Sean simultaneously understood. If she continued her slash, Hakuro might receive a fatal damage that couldn't be reversed, even with regeneration. I'm sorry, Hakuro. I want you to see my growth, and consciously What? I don't really mind. I also wanted to see your seriousness. No, I've already seen enough. Hakoro forgives Sean when she apologizes. Towards those two, oh, you who is called Sean will personally teach you next time. You should be pleased. That strike just now was a strike that could even slay Demon Lord, you know. So Milim says. However, no, I need to decline. After all, I'm not that really interested in becoming strong. Sean, as one would expect, Sean declined if her opponent is the tyrant Milim and chose to escape. What did you say? You should take responsibility for chipping my magic sword, Tenma. Milim made a fuss, but if she minds it, then she's already lost. Sean made the right choice, resolute on making a speedy escape from the arena. No, it's not chipped. It's not degraded by rust. There is no problem for becoming an important judge referee for today. Thank you very much. After she said that, Sean started to flee and quickly left that place. Milim had face that say, She began to laugh as if she gave up on it. Milim's laugh reverberates in the Colosseum. This match victory goes to Sean. The winner of final match on the third tournament what day is Sean. With this, the best four people are all present. Next scene, I was surprised Sean was able to confront Hakoro directly, but I was more surprised by her victory. However, what surprised me the most is Milim who read the situation and intervened. I think that if Milim's intervention didn't come, Hakoro would be dead. It's good that she intervened. Milim, you really helped me by stopping Sean there. Thank you. When I say my thanks, wahahaha, what? It was a good thing. However, your subordinate called Sean, that one is growing up. You don't need to be worried about that guy fellow. So she answered with laugh. The thing is, I will also make a live report tomorrow, so she demands from me while inclining her head, a smile on her face. She will not accept a refusal. Glimpse, I glance at Sokka. Understood. Then Milim-sama, let's us both make a live report together. It seems Sokka will not yield in this. Well, whatever. Perhaps something will happen tomorrow. Milim and Sokka. I acknowledge that those two would perform the live report for tomorrow's matches. The schedule for the fourth day. The 13th match, Benimaru versus Gobta. Plus Ranga. The 14th match, Sean versus Diablo. Also the match to decide the third place. Well, what will happen? We left to go home while thinking about tomorrow's outcome. Next scene, in the night, the meal with the hero Masayuki that been delayed was achieved. Oh well, it was not such grandiose thing. Wow, it's nice to meet you. Is it fine? I'm the hero. Lol, Masayuki. While blushing, Masayuki introduces himself as a hero. Yeah, if he still had the original world sense, there's no one who would not be embarrassed when calling oneself a hero. It's just like the feeling of when you're called and made fun as a brained hero inside the game. And he called me out when we met before. And at that time, he was still under Yuki's brainwashing, but he remembered that the response can't be taken back. Therefore, it seems to have become an unpleasant feeling. After all, I'm a demon lord. As the opponent, I can be considered as a boss that needed to be defeated. I think his mental state can be called very complex now. However, such a sick feeling should be cleared if I prepared a meal to eat together. Oh well. Although this is not our first meeting, nice to meet you. Should do. I'm Demon Lord Rimuru. My real name is Mikami Satoru. I'm a former salaryman. So I first spoke frankly to ease the mood. It's been a long time since I've spoken that abandoned name, but it flowed more nicely than I thought. By any chance, are you a Japanese person? Oh well, my looks is a pretty girl. It's natural if he doesn't believe it. Well, yes. Shall we talk about it while we eat? I said so and invited him to a meal. Masayuki is deeply moved because of the sushi and udon displayed in front of his eyes. We'll be able to have a decent conversation after the meal. I understand it's okay if I become Mikami's subordinate. Although I still not said anything yet, he said such words as soon as we finished eating. What did you understand? I completely don't understand. No, well, although I can understand that he's starved for Japanese food, subordinate you are. No, it's okay because I don't have any attachments for something like hero. To be frank, it's embarrassing to be called Masayuki. To be called. No, actually, I was troubled. How should I resign? So he starts talking freely. He told me that he attended college prep schools back in the former world and was also a bright honor student. His secret and hidden hobby was that he liked to read manga and light novels, but thanks to that, he had the desire to become a hero. So he complained about this. After that, we talked about various things and explained about each other's circumstances. Well, I only talked a bit. I almost became an expert at listening. It seems he really wanted to talk. He explained lengthily and in great detail. It seems Masayuki was unable to speak what was inside his mind because his companions worshipped him as if he was a god. With such circumstances, he seemed to have piled up a lot of stress. I also heard about Yuki in detail. Oh well, as I expected, I seem to have received the thought guidance. That was the first stage of brainwashing. I attained some proof, though thought I had doubts of this of thought I had doubts if there was complete mind domination, but this was also inside my prediction. It's difficult to perform complete mind domination on several people at the same time. This was what I had reasoned. About will domination is preferable for useful people that had unique skill, as it is difficult to dominate them, since people with ability using usually had a strong will. That's why it's necessary to affect them when their ability hasn't reached a mature stage. Still, thought guidance, isn't it? I had memories when I received it, but it was also the truth that he had helped me. Instead of shameful memories, it could have ended worse. However, thanks to that, I could faint if I try to remember it. As expected, I can't forgive that guy. If he is, sabi ni Masayuki, if he is recognized as hero, then he had mastered the ability as it was. That's also okay, but it seems that the memory is embarrassing. Well, there is nothing that can be done except to forget it. Although he will faint in agony for a while, in the end, Masayuki promised to cooperate with me, since it's also profitable to get information from him. When he could remember, he would contact me. So for the moment, he would continue to stay in my city. Above all, I still had business with his manga memory. He'll become my conversation partner for a while. Thus, the friendship between me and Masayuki was created, and I obtained a new companion. Number three, Bato Jutsu, the art of drawing sword. The other name for it is Lai Jutsu. This is a serious sword art where the practitioner draw their sword and return it so fast, skillfully, without waste a move. A skillful master can use his sword so fast that eyes couldn't see it. Just watch some Rurouni Kenshin or some YouTube video. It's cool. Okay. End of chapter 112.